a journey through the history of the Marian Shrine of the Visitation, located in Judea and a pilgrimage site for Christians and Jews alike. The ceramic signs in Jerusalem's Old City reveal the secrets of a craft practiced by an Armenian family for over a century. On May the 28th, the Sion community promoted an interreligious prayer in Jerusalem to invoke mercy and peace on the Holy Land and the entire world. Restoration works and archaeological research at the Holy Sepulcher continue, a fundamental step in sharing knowledge and raising awareness among a wider public, including pilgrims and visitors. Travelling with Mary to the hill country of Judea to the house of her cousin Elizabeth, we go to visit and learn about the shrine dedicated to the Mother of God with the help of Brother Sergio Olmedo, pilgrimage guide. Everything we celebrate in this place, here in the village of Ein Karem, has also been studied from a scientific perspective. Since 1938, when the custers at the time, Alberto Gori, wanted to restore this site, acquired definitively by the Franciscans in the 17th century, they rebuilt the church, which already had a long history. He called on Antonio Barluzzi, and together they decided to offer this homage to the Blessed Virgin Mary.
Chiamando Antonio Barluzzi, hanno deciso di fare questo omaggio a Maria Santissima.
In a book written by Father Bellarmino Bagatti, archaeologist of the Holy Land, discoveries from the Roman period related to the church's foundations are documented. Remains of the Byzantine and Crusader churches are still visible. There are ancient texts, for example, that speak of the Cave of the Just Elizabeth until the 7th century, or the Grotto of the Just Elizabeth. Starting from the 7th century, we begin to know of the church dedicated to Saint Elizabeth, visited by the Christian community of Jerusalem. The frescoes depict scenes from sacred scripture, historical events of the church, and major Marian dogmas. The central painting is the work of Francesco Manetti, who, together with Cesare Vagarini, painted most of the church. In the apse, for example, Mary is depicted as a palm rising in the desert. This is why there are many palms everywhere, on the windows crafted in various styles and on the floor.
Sul pavimento. Mary
is honoured with this church, taken up by the custers at the time, Giacinto Faccio, the successor of Alberto Gori. He offered it to the Virgin Mary, and our Father St. Francis blessed this initiative.
E San Francesco, nostro padre, che li benedisse.
On the right side, the frescoes depict the triumphant church. At the bottom is the episode of the miracle in which Jesus casts out the demon, and the woman blesses him, saying, "Blessed is the womb that bore you and the breasts that nursed you." On the left, there's a painting of all the Marian churches in Europe. Below is a depiction of Elizabeth going toward Mary.
Qui, per esempio, il Concilio di Efeso, 431.
Here we see, for example, the Council of Ephesus in 431, the first to declare that Mary is the Mother of God. Next, we have the Madonna as the health, the salvation of those who hope in her, refuge of sinners, one could say, who welcomes all under her mantle. One unique feature of this painting is the figure of Antonio Barluzzi, the bald man seen looking at us next to the Lady in Yellow.
Antonio Barluzzi, quell'uomo calvo che si vede guardando verso di noi, accanto alla sinistra.
The third fresco shows our Mother as mediatrix. The wedding at Cana. The fourth fresco portrays the Battle of Lepanto, October the 7th, 1571.
Ottobre 1571.
Finally, Blessed John Duns Scotus, who defended the doctrine of the Immaculate Conception. The Hebrew woman described in the Bible and represented in the shrine also attract the attention of the local Jewish population.
Questo è il luogo mariano per eccellenza della Giudea.
This is the Marian place par excellence in Judea. But it is also a very feminine shrine. Israeli women love to come here because they see figures like Jael, Judith, Miriam, Deborah, Sarah represented. They strongly identify with them. The Virgin Mary, of course, brings them all together. That's why the shrine is important. It manages to involve the Jewish people, not only women but also students.
E non soltanto le donne, perché vengono anche degli studenti.
We too came in great numbers on Saturday, May the 31st, the feast of the Visitation, to honor the Blessed Virgin Mary and Saint Elizabeth. Brother Francesco Patton, Custos of the Holy Land, presided over the Eucharist. In his homily, he recalled his journey as Custos. 9 years ago, he celebrated in this very church as he awaited the start of his service to the custody.
Il verbo visitare per me è stato molto importante perché di fatto.
The word visit has been very important to me because, in fact, I've seen these 9 years as a pilgrimage, not only through the holy places, but across all the territory of the custody. Trying to encounter people, to take on this kind of service, you need to trust. So faith is essential, I think, in all life choices.
Credo in tutte le scelte di vita, esultare perché.
Rejoice, because with great gratitude at the end of these 9 years, I must honestly thank God. It has probably been the most significant experience of my life.
L'esperienza più significativa della mia vita.
And like Mary, we were welcomed by the friar community who, as always, prepared an abundant meal to receive all who came to give thanks to the Lord and for all his blessings. The ceramic signs in the old city of Jerusalem reveal the secrets of a craft practiced by an Armenian family for more than 100 years. I belong to the third generation of the Karakashian family, specialists in Armenian ceramics in Jerusalem. It all began in 1919 during the British Mandate, when the then governor, Sir Ronald Storrs, wanted to restore the Kashani tiles of the Dome of the Rock. He invited to Jerusalem an Armenian ceramist, David Ohanessian, originally from the city of Kütahya in Turkey, to inspect the project and conduct a preliminary study. Following this study, it was decided to replace 48,000 tiles around the dome. Ohanessian then returned to Kütahya to recruit a group of artists, including my grandfather, Megredich Karakashian, and Nishan Balyan, who specialized in clay modeling. Mastery of this art became a path to salvation for 3 Armenian families who escaped the atrocities committed by the Ottomans during the massacres against their people. The 3 families left Turkey during the massacres carried out by the Ottomans against the Armenians and came to Jerusalem. Here they stood out by creating tile samples to submit for approval by the British authorities. The British appreciated their work and approved the designs, but the Islamic Awqaf authorities stopped the project, claiming that Armenian Christians could not work on a religious Islamic property, waqf. Yes, this rejection led to the establishment of the first ceramic workshop in the Holy Land in 1919. The second generation included my father and my uncle. Stepan Karakashian was commissioned by Jordan in 1966 to produce ceramic street signs in the Old City, in both Arabic and English. In 1967, after the arrival of the Jews, then Israeli Mayor Teddy Kollek asked my father to add Hebrew street names above the Arabic and English. This line indicates that Hebrew was added only after 1967.
العبراني انضاف بعد ال 67.
These trilingual signs leave pilgrims with a vivid image of the city's social and religious fabric.
بعتقد انه
I believe the number of signs made by my father is around 250 because Jerusalem has many neighborhoods and alleyways.
القديمة بالقدس.
Regarding the Armenian presence in the city of Jerusalem, Hagop says,
للأسف كثير من شباب الأرمن عم بتركوا القدس وبهاجروا لأمريكا وأستراليا.
Many young people have left Jerusalem and emigrated to America, Australia and Canada due to the region's political instability, the lack of job opportunities and the difficulties of starting a family. Unfortunately, the number of Armenians has decreased. But despite everything, we are still here, and we hope the war ends and tourism returns to former levels so we can remain and continue living here.
نضلنا هون ونشتغل ونضلنا صامدين.
In the light of the urgent need for peace in the Holy Land, the community of Sion organized an interreligious prayer vigil on May the 28th in the Tower of David Square in Jerusalem. It was held to invoke protection upon the city, the whole world, and all broken hearts.
The prayer brought together representatives of the Christian, Muslim, Jewish, and Druze faiths, along with both secular and religious participants.
ואני מאמינה שאם ישבו פה אנשים שמביאים למרכז דווקא את
I believe that if people could sit here and focus deeply on spirit, on heart, and on compassion towards others and towards themselves, then maybe we could invoke in the heart of the Holy City a moment where religion becomes vital again. A healing and correcting force capable of guiding us toward a life of peace and blessing for all.
שמבקש בשביל כולנו חיים של שלום וברכה.
Every chapter of the Quran begins with the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Mercy is itself an act of worship. The messenger of God, may God bless him and grant him peace, said in several hadiths, whoever does not show mercy will not receive mercy. Be merciful to those on earth, and he who is in heaven will be merciful to you. Unfortunately, there is a lack of structured and clear programs in schools, educational institutions, and even places of worship that can effectively transmit these fundamental values to the new generations.
Thanks to these gatherings, our perspective has changed. Today we see Muslims, Jews, and Christians as our brothers and sisters. Even our perspective as women has changed profoundly. We are educating our children and grandchildren to become builders of peace. At school, we talk about the value of peace and engage in educational activities that promote hospitality and respect for others.
In his address, Father Yosef Yaqub, priest of the Maronite parish in Haifa, emphasized the similarity between the Arabic and Hebrew words for mercy and the word that means womb, a symbol of space, nourishment, safety, growth, and love. He prayed that God may teach us to live mercy as a path toward a better future. People of every faith were present here, wishing to send a message to the State of Israel, to Jerusalem, to the Middle East, and to the entire world. If we human beings no longer know how to build peace, then maybe it's time we turn to God, because God is one. The choice of Tower of David Square as the prayer site was not accidental. This place was the residence of Jerusalem's rulers for over 2,200 years. Jerusalem, in the end, is not only the city of three religions, but a city consecrated to the one God. For a few hours, an ideal world took shape in this historic area of Jerusalem, raising the deep question, is it possible to live like this in the land of the prophets?
I am not a prophetess, and I don't know what will happen in 10 or 1,000 years. The time of prophets has passed, but the duty to work remains.
In just over 3 years, restoration of the pavement and archaeological research have been ongoing at the Holy Sepulcher. During a recent visit, Professor Francesca Romana Stasolla, archaeologist from La Sapienza University in Rome, guided us through the penultimate sector of the excavation area, down to about 6 meters deep. This does not mark the conclusion of the project, but it is a significant milestone in the study of the site, with possibilities for further investigation.
Questa cava, dopo essere stata sfruttata per l'estrazione del materiale, è stata progressivamente riempita.
This quarry, after being exploited for material extraction, was gradually filled with soil to make it first cultivable and later buildable. A Roman religious structure was built on it, whose remains have been found. Immediately above it, after that structure's destruction, rose the Christian complex of the 4th century. Finally, the Crusader pillars still visible today. So we are faced with an extraordinary sequence of settlements and chronology that this area alone reveals.
E sequenza cronologica che proprio quest'area restituisce tutta.
This is documentation of great archaeological importance, supported by materials that include the excavation sequence and cataloguing of the finds from a site with a long history.
Si fa attraverso una raccolta minuziosa di tutto e un'analisi e non solo degli elementi ritrovati dal punto di vista
A
archeologico.
meticulous collection of everything is being done, and analysis not only of the artifacts from an archaeological perspective, but also of soil sediments for paleobotanical study, animal bones to understand dietary habits, and pollen analysis. Soil studies help us understand how archaeological layers were formed. This is an interdisciplinary investigation aimed not only at reconstructing the monumental sequence, but the entire life of this area of Jerusalem, the community that inhabited it, and the millions of people who came and left their mark.
Persone che sono venuti qui e che hanno lasciato traccia di questo passaggio. Questo è un monumento che
This monument is truly a heritage of humanity, so it's right that everyone has access to the information.
The site's archaeological legacy is also confirmed by the Gospels, which speak of the place where our Lord died, was buried and rose again. Together with Father Amedeo Ricco, who closely follows the work at the Holy Sepulcher, we explore the historical and archaeological memory of this sacred site for Christianity. For him, the rocky spur of Calvary, called Golgotha in Aramaic, is undoubtedly an authentic miracle of history.
Questa piccola altura che si alza di 5 metri rispetto al pavimento.
This small hill, which rises about 5 meters above the floor of the basilica, has managed to survive everything that has happened to this site throughout history. As we know from ancient sources and archaeology, Emperor Hadrian, when he wanted to rebuild the city of Jerusalem as a Roman colony, built here a public and religious complex dedicated to pagan deities.
Pubblico e religioso alle divinità pagane.
Brother Amedeo reminds us that many ancient sources, both in Greek and Latin, attest that the Christians of Jerusalem kept alive the memory of the place of Jesus' death and never forgot it. Even though they could not publicly celebrate their faith on Calvary, the Christians of Jerusalem never ceased to indicate and recognize the place of Christ's crucifixion, as confirmed by the sources.
È un punto fisso della
It is a fixed point of Christian faith and a fixed point in the city of Jerusalem. It managed to endure all the events of history because it remained elevated enough.
rimaneva abbastanza in alto.
The rock was partially cut down during Constantine's time in the 4th century to allow the passage of pilgrims and to integrate it into the Grand Basilica project, conceived as the most beautiful church in the world.
L'archeologia ha aggiunto delle notizie che non conoscevamo.
Archaeology has added knowledge we didn't have from the Gospels. For example, these areas outside the city, cultivated with gardens and orchards, were all created within an ancient stone quarry.
All'interno di una cava di pietra.
The Gospel of John confirms that at the place of the crucifixion there was a garden, and in it a new tomb. Matthew specifies that the tomb belonged to Joseph of Arimathea, a member of the Sanhedrin, who wished to honor the Master by offering that nearby tomb for his burial.
Tutto sembrava perfetto.
Everything seemed perfect to give Jesus a burial that was quick, dignified and respectful, even if there was little time.
Dignitosa, anche se il tempo era poco.
Open yourself to a gesture of solidarity and support the mission of the custody of the Holy Land. The Christian Media Center spreads the good news of Jesus by making known to the world the spirituality of the holy places and the lives of the Christians who live here. Your contribution will help us bring the proclamation of the risen Lord, the most urgent of all, to men and women of every language and nation. To help us concretely, open the QR code. Your choice makes a difference.